Welcome to the Thrive in Fashion podcast, where we explore the role of the fashion buyer, the knowledge and skill sets required for success, and the impact of the role in your retail business. In each episode, you will learn about industry best practice and how the buyer's role is evolving in this ever-changing, fast-paced industry. And now, here is your host, a fashion industry expert with over 20 years of experience, Elisabeth McHale.
When it comes to talking about careers in fashion buying, the conversation is usually about how do I become a fashion buyer and what does a fashion buyer do? Less spoken about are the soft skills that a fashion buyer should possess. The buyer's eye for spotting trends, developing or selecting products, along with great instincts and technical knowledge are critical. Hello and welcome to another episode of Thrive in Fashion. I am Elisabeth McHale. And today we're talking about soft skills for fashion buyers. These are the secret ingredients that turns a good fashion buyer into a great one. Mastering these soft skills can significantly impact your effectiveness. And as you develop your career, it enables you to cope with the different scenarios and challenges that you face in the role. A buyer's eye for spotting trends and developing or selecting products, along with great instincts, technical skills and industry knowledge are critical, but these alone do not ensure success. In this episode, I will focus on 5 essential soft skills that every fashion buyer needs, and I will talk about the importance of these and how to develop them. During a recent masterclass, I was asked a question about confidence and if it is necessary to have confidence as a fashion buyer, particularly as you have to negotiate with suppliers. In short, the answer is yes. Confidence is essential for fashion buyers as it enables them to make decisive choices, negotiate effectively with suppliers, and present their ideas convincingly. A confident buyer inspires trust from both colleagues and managers, but gaining that trust is usually the result of previous actions, processes, and results. I think in certain parts of our lives, for example, personal lives, there may be situations where you don't feel confident. In a work situation, confidence builds as you develop your career and develop your role, and this is something that happens over time. For a buyer at the start of their career, you will not necessarily be confident on all aspects of the role. Initially, you're just focused with understanding the buying process and understanding the deadlines, managing the various tasks that you are assigned, and some of these, depending on your prior experience, may come to you more easily than others. It's a good opportunity at this stage to understand what your strengths are and the areas for improvement. Confidence has to be backed up by experience. Having confidence to sell something that eventually doesn't deliver in terms of the strategy that you're sharing, and it's not delivered in sales results, no amount of confidence can erase or overcome that. The more you are exposed to different situations, particularly in the world of fashion buying, the more confident you will become. Getting exposure to real-world industry situations and having to make decisions, and when you see the result or the impact of those decisions, each experience, whether successful or challenging, contributes to your growth. One of the things I have found really helpful in terms of confidence is being thoroughly prepared. If you have ever been in the Brownies or the Girl Guides, the motto we learned was, always be prepared. And while it didn't necessarily have much significance back then, it's something that always came back into my mind. Prepare thoroughly for meetings, presentations, and negotiations. The more prepared you are, the more confident you will feel, and the easier the task will be. Research, practice, anticipate potential questions or challenges. Also, seek constructive feedback from mentors or colleagues or your reporting manager. Use the feedback to identify areas for improvement and work on these. Constructive criticism can be a powerful tool for building confidence when approached with an open mind and when done correctly. The next one is public speaking. Speaking in front of your team of buyers or management can be really daunting. When you're starting out in your career in fashion buying, there are always opportunities where you will be called upon to present either a feedback report from the market or to present some sales figures or do a show and tell of the best sellers and slow movers from the previous week. While these presentations initially may seem small and insignificant, building up the practice of presenting in front of your team and your colleagues will really help when it comes to the much bigger presentations to senior management or buying directors at the time of the sign-off review meetings or where you're presenting your trends and ideas and strategies. Speaking in public effectively enhances your credibility and your influence. It's important to get that practice in front of smaller groups and build on that if it's something that you're not familiar with or confident doing. You can start with friends and family and then gradually increase the size of your audience. When I was in school, I took part in speech and drama classes, which helped to overcome any fears I may have had about speaking in public. The more you practice, the more you're comfortable with. And remember, it is normal to feel nervous before presenting, but these nerves can be positive energy. Pay attention also to your body language. Stand tall, make eye contact, and use open gestures. Confident body language can also influence how others perceive you and how you feel about yourself. There's a great TED Talk given by Amy Cuddy, and she shares her research on the power of body language and the effect our body language has on us before an important interview, event, or performance. She says, focus less on the impression that you're making on others and more on the impression you're making on yourself. The next skill is presenting, and presenting is a key skill for fashion buyers and ties in with the previous one about speaking in public. Fashion buyers need to showcase new collections, trends, and ideas at different times of the year, and a compelling presentation can certainly influence decision and, more importantly, secure buy-in from stakeholders. Visuals really help when illustrating your points, rather than just looking at sheets of numbers or having the text of everything that you're saying on the slides. It can get really boring and repetitive. Keep your presentations engaging and make sure that your visuals are relevant to the content that you're sharing. When you are sharing numbers, check and double check that these are accurate figures. Practice your presentation lots of times. Normally before a big sign-off meeting where different members of the buying team are presenting separate categories, we would always do a couple of run-throughs when we could, just to get comfortable with what was being said and delivered, and also to double-check that the flow of information that we're presenting made sense. It also gave an opportunity to highlight or anticipate questions that could be asked depending on what was being presented. The next key skill is empathy. Empathy is something that helps a buyer understand the customer's needs. It helps when building relationships with your suppliers, and in general helps in the work environment when you can empathize or understand the other person's point of view, or perhaps see things differently. For example, practicing active listening and understanding other people's point of view, or paying attention to what others are saying without interrupting and responding thoughtfully, are really good practices. Active listening shows that you value your opinion, and it's not always about what your opinion or your view is. One exercise we used to do in the office when looking at new product samples or deciding whether a specific product was going to make it into the range or not was showing the sample around the office. Just a quick show and tell to gauge reaction or response and see what the majority might favour. While inwardly I might have thought, yes, this is a great product, I love it, I'm really confident about this and I want everyone to say yes. After showing it around the office and getting more negative responses than positive ones, may not have been the result I was looking for, but being open to the information and open to take on board their opinions as to why they didn't think it was a great style. Sometimes, when others see things that you don't, it can be a good thing. If everyone is thinking this way, perhaps you do need to relook at it. Empathy is a great skill to possess, whether it is in understanding and addressing the needs of your co-workers, your customers, and your suppliers. It can foster a much more collaborative work environment and helps in creating products that will also resonate with your target customer. And the last skill I want to touch on relates to building relationships with your suppliers. It's not just always about getting a better deal and timely deliveries. It actually helps everything to run a lot smoother, building trust and rapport with your suppliers and wanting to develop a longer-term relationship, and not just for one season. It leads to mutual success, longer-term benefits, and stronger mutual cooperation. Some of the ways that you can do this are maintaining open communication and being transparent. Be clear in communicating what your requirements are, what your expectations are of the business, and any changes that may happen. All of this prevents misunderstanding and builds trust. Having an indecisive buyer or someone who continually goes back on the word does nothing to help a relationship develop with your suppliers and definitely does not build trust. It helps to be aware of any cultural differences that may exist, and how you express or communicate your points of view is also really important. Honor your commitments, meet your deadlines, and be transparent from your side. Trust is a two-way thing, and it's the foundation of any strong partnership. Develop your negotiation skills and understand the needs and constraints of your supplier and work towards reaching agreements that are mutually beneficial. Ultimately, you are doing what's best for the business in terms of negotiating, but it's also important to be professional and fair. After years working in the industry as a fashion buyer, you'll soon realize what a small world it is. Your reputation is everything. If you choose to develop your career and work with different companies, you will be surprised as to how many suppliers you will come across or your paths will cross again and again. It's not about trying to get one over on your suppliers, and it's not a competition. Working with your suppliers to find solutions to problems, mistakes, or challenges that arise, rather than assigning blame, is more effective in the long run. The 5 skills I was talking about were confidence, public speaking, presenting, empathy, and relationship building. When I was starting out in my career, I wasn't necessarily aware about how important these skills were, or I actually didn't realize how much I would use them. My experience from taking part in speech and drama classes and various competitions, I may not have liked it or appreciated it at the time, but it was these building blocks that I fell back on once I started my career. For me, standing up and doing a presentation wasn't necessarily as big a deal to me as it was to some of my colleagues. However, negotiating with suppliers for the first time was probably a lot more daunting. Confidence in my work or how I approach work is definitely something that comes from the knowledge and work experience I've acquired over the years. And that came from working in different environments, from working in a retail environment, working as a designer in a factory environment, and it gives you a whole new perspective about the challenges and operations of the factory environment versus how the operations of a retail buying office are, and understanding both sides has been really advantageous for me. Sometimes your career path doesn't go directly from A to B. Sometimes you may take a turn to the left or go to the right. It isn't always straightforward. Having a clear path and keeping your eye on and being focused on where you eventually want to reach, taking a diversion as long as it's heading in the right direction, will always add to your skill set, build on your experience. All of these small things will add up to strengthening all of the skills that I've mentioned. Once you master these, you will recognize when you are responsible for a team of buyers, the weaknesses or weaker areas of some of the junior team members that you are mentoring or advising, and help them to improve and develop their skills. Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Thrive in Fashion podcast. If you found it helpful, please share it with your friends. If you are interested in developing your fashion buying skills, check out the Thrive in Fashion buying and merchandising course, or get on the waitlist and find out when the membership is open for registration again. Thank you for listening. Until next time.
Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed it, make sure to like, subscribe, follow, and share the show. For more of Elisabeth's industry tips and to learn more about how you can develop your buying skills, visit thriveinfashion.com. There you can find show notes for this episode and every episode. Also, register for the Thrive in Fashion program and sign up for weekly news delivered straight to your inbox. Until next time.